Hello, this is GeoTechland, and today I'll be taking a look at Android versus iPhone/iOS. I've been really wanting to make this kind of video for quite some time now, because even though there are so many good Linux mobile operating systems and hardware coming soon, for most people, the debate between Android versus iPhone is still very relevant. And although there are some nice options in the Linux mobile world with the upcoming Librem 5, the E Foundation's options with the Fairphone 3 with their own EOS, and even the upcoming Pine phone with many operating systems like Ubuntu Touch, an OS by KDE and Sailfish and Postmarket, I think for now these options are limited to appealing more to a very minor enthusiast group, because all of this hardware is still in beta, right? So in today's world, for many users, for the majority of users actually, they're ultimately going to settle on an Android or iPhone. Android is open source. Each manufacturer can customize it a little bit different, and in general you have more customization with Android, especially if you're a Linux enthusiast. Android itself runs Linux, so by supporting Android, you're in a sense supporting open source and supporting Linux, the Linux kernel. And so you get a lot of options and a lot of choice. And Android itself, you can customize it further on an individual level. With iPhone, it's been typically known in our world that it's very closed source, that you can't really do much with it. On the iPhone level, you don't get that customization. You pretty much get whatever Apple thinks is best, and you're kind of stuck with it. You can't really update unless you like jailbreak the iPhone to add any customization, and so that can limit your options on what you can do with the device. And that's been a key part of what keeps people, especially a lot of tech enthusiasts, away from iPhone. And even personally for me in the past, when I first kind of got introduced to iPhone, I remember that you had to do everything through Apple, like even putting music in it, you'd have to go through iTunes, and that was always a pain. And so naturally, Android was a lot easier to get music in it, directly in it, or videos, and I just would have less problems. And I thought, Apple's very restrictive in that sense. But in today's world, I don't think that's really the case anymore, or it's not a factor. When you think about it, what's the most popular way people listen to music now is through Spotify or through, Pandora or even Apple Music. For the majority of people, that's how they listen to music, and you can download Spotify on Android or iPhone. Pretty much the most common apps that people rely on are available on both, so you're not limited to that restriction anymore. One big benefit of being on iPhone that I've never really thought of much till recently is that because they're not in the advertising business, their business model is not to data mine you in the way you'd be data mined on an Android phone, because for Android phone you'd have to typically have a Gmail account, and anything you type or do on Android would kind of go through Google. By default you're getting data mined. And with Apple, even though Apple could always change policy, as of now they seem to be a lot better with privacy, and that's actually a huge benefit of sticking with or of using iPhone, is that sure, even though you're limited in many ways, you do get a benefit of having much better privacy. And most apps that people use, they typically can find them on both Android and iPhone. So it raises an interesting question: is generally I still would prefer Android, but more so than ever I'm actually considering iPhone, especially with the recent announcements that they've made. They seem to open up a little bit more, with changing like default apps on iPhone and adding a bit more customization like widgets. There are still a lot of little things Apple can improve on to make it an even more compelling purchase. One big thing is having USB Type-C. That way they can join every other phone manufacturer, make life easier instead of using their own proprietary Lightning port, and things like having a smaller notch, for example. So if you need a phone and you just need a set of core apps, that the average person needs, I think iPhone is a much better option than it has ever been. You do get a bigger commitment from Apple in terms of software support. You can get around 4 to 5 years of updates, whereas with Android it's a little bit more fragmented. You can typically only get like 2 to 3, maybe, unless you get like a Pixel. And of course, ultimately though, for me being a Linux enthusiast, if only there was an OS that was both very open source and very much not in the business of data mining you and instead respecting your privacy. Phones like the Librem 5, software created by the E Foundation, hardware from the Pine team and Ubuntu Touch, etc. Ultimately, you're going to get both open source and privacy from them, so that's what I'm also hoping for. Until that day comes though, until a lot of the software and hardware are in a much better shape, for now it's still going to be an Android and iPhone world. So let me know what you guys think. Have you ever considered iPhone, or which one do you think is better, Android or iPhone? What are the pros, what are the cons? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this video, please like, share, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.